Hello fellow Helldivers, Thornton and Freya here, and today we are going to be talking about, well, how there has been a lot of doom and gloom surrounding the game, but with the new updates, that doom and gloom is probably going to disappear. We're going to go over why it has been overstated, but without further ado, let's jump into today's topic. So before we jump into today's topic about the life cycle of Helldivers 2, there was something new that was actually just brought up on the Helldivers League subreddit, and according to some inside sources and some data mine information, there does seem to be a president model in the files right here. You can actually see the mesh on the left hand side and the concept art on the right. Along with that, what was really interesting is there's actually a detailed model of the mansion right here, and this would make a lot of sense as there is a super Earth that will be used at some point in the near future. In fact, this is a textured version brought to us by Iron Sights, who put it together. It looks pretty cool, and there's been a lot of talk about Super Earth being a very near planet that we might have to defend. There was even some talk that this is going to be a rumored defense mission. The whole point of the mission is to defend it for as long as you can. Of course, Bamboo Sights, which is actually Iron Sights, as he's now been taken over by the Bamboo Wizards, I told you they were going to come, did let us know that this does seem like what this is going to be. Now, this isn't actually the first NPC model we've seen. There is also the NPC Science Officer that was also data mined that we've covered in a couple of videos as well. And this is pretty interesting because it does look like they are going to be adding new progression systems, and the president model slash the science officer would be pretty cool. There's even a chance that this is actually an admiral officer. We see these guys right now on the ship. Some of them have eye patches in case you haven't noticed, and these are also from Helldivers 1. And overall, it does look like we're slowly moving in that way. In fact, Shams, the CEO, which took over for Johan not too long ago, hopped in a Reddit thread that was actually about maxed resources and players saying that they wanted more things to spend in-game currency on, and right now they've kind of gotten stagnant. And he did say his intent is, of course, to add more stuff for long-term progression, and then took suggestions from the player community. And I gotta be honest, you gotta love to see that, because you don't get that much communications with devs, let alone the CEO of companies, on what we want added into the game. The other interesting thing about the Super Earth thing is, well, if you've actually looked at the Sol system where Super Earth is located, it tells you how many kills on the planet so far, and there's been 0 Terminids, 0 automatons, and 0 friendly, yet 16 Illuminate have been killed. So for the defense mission, I'll be interested to see if actually the Illuminate might have some shape-shifting abilities since the last time we saw them in a galactic war, and maybe they are actually the NPC president model and they are infiltrating, and that's why some of them have been killed. We won't know for sure yet, but it is all adding up there and it is pretty interesting. But with the CEO talking about new progression systems, we are of course going to talk a little bit about the life cycle of the game, because there are a ton of articles coming out and it's getting a little annoying as a lot of publications are saying Helldivers 2 falls to an all-time low player count. And of course, you know, it's not wrong. The player count has dropped on Steam. We don't have the PlayStation number, so I imagine that player base is still pretty healthy, but you can see 13,316 the other day on Steam. But what no one seems to be bringing up in these articles is that's not necessarily, you know, kind of crazy or anything. There's a couple of reasons why this is happening. One, we just got a bunch of new DLC for Elden Ring with the Shadow of the Erd Tree, which was absolutely phenomenal and gained a ton of support. There's new games launching as well, such as the First Descendant, which has garnered a ton of fan support, and players of course want to go ahead and try it out, especially as Arrowhead is on vacation right now. However, next week on August 6th, we get the Freedom of Escalation DLC, which is going to be a massive upgrade to the game and bring in a ton of new content. And along with that, we're also going to be getting a brand new Freedom Flames War Bond on August 8th, 2 days later. And then we will see how the player count resurges, and we will be able to go ahead and take a look at other games to see if it will follow a similar trajectory. Let me give you an example of Pal World, which is a great example in my opinion, because Pal World dropped to just 13,990 players before the summer update. That is an insanely similar number actually to Helldivers 2. However, it just got a latest expansion and its numbers rose to 143,000 before falling back to an average of 80,000, which is very healthy, because another thing you got to remember is that this game of Helldivers, very similar to Pal World, is a PvE game. This is not a PvP game where every day you can go against a human opponent, and it's a little bit different because you never know how humans are going to react. PvP and PvE have a very different life cycle when it comes to live service, and Pal World and Helldivers are a great example that when new expansions drop, such as the Illuminate or a new War Bond, those numbers will surge back up because players have something to grind for, new progression systems like the Super Earth we just talked about, or a new enemy faction. Is the game right now not exactly super exciting? Not if you've been playing it for like 220 hours for the last 3 months. That being said, the game only came out in February. We have 2 enemy factions, we have a ton of stratagems, we're looking at new progression systems with the ship modules. So overall, the game has a very bright future, and all the doom and gloom about how the game is falling off really isn't taking into account all the different factors on how a PvE live service game happens. What will be really interesting is when Space Marines 2 comes out for Warhammer, which is also a PvE game, which is in a similar sci-fi vein as Helldivers, but still I think both of them will thrive as they'll have different content cycles and not run parallel to each other, unless the publishers, developers are all brain dead. Let me know down below, what are your guys' thoughts on Helldivers 2 with the new updates? Do you think it will research the player base? Do you wonder why this dog continually chews on my chin? And as always, fellow Helldivers, thank you for watching, and keep spreading democracy.